This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and occasionally our producer, Simon Slater. This is episode number 82, and I've just got to give a tear out, I would say a shout out, to Ricky Powell, who just passed, who was recently on the podcast. It was very horrifying to me. He was back to back with Pat Loud, who had also just passed. And Ricky Powell, the ultimate B-boy, just, I think he died in his sleep, heart failure. He went soft. I hope he wasn't shoveling snow. We love you, Ricky. And you did what you did. And thank you for doing it, because there was no one like you, my friend. So, and it is the season. I mean, right now, it's always at the end of the year between like December, and there's a lot of death. It's kind of the regeneration period. Of course, if I had my choice in who was going to die, it certainly wouldn't have been the aforementioned. But however, how are you, Timothy Dahl?
I'm fine. I mean, considering, I mean, not to go down this list, I mean, I've known a lot of people who've died in the last couple of months, and not from COVID, from just other shit. I don't know what the fuck's going on out there, but heart failure, suicide, ODs,
It is
cancer, whatever.
it is that time of the year, and also stress. And so many people are under so much stress.
Yeah.
It just over exaggerates everything else that might be going on. But I know a lot of people that are still alive, and I know a lot
Yes,
of
we do.
people that are healthy, and that's what we have to focus on. I just want to say a little thing about death, because I'm remembering, for instance, all of the deaths I know, which I'm always surprised there hasn't been more. But I mean, one is what, a tragedy, 1 million, a statistic. But my view on death is this: we don't. First of all, I've never gone to a funeral in my life. Not even my parents or anybody, because I'd probably get into an argument for this reason. We don't cry for the dead; they got no worries. We cry for ourselves because we're greedy. I like to celebrate. This is whether it's the end of a relationship or the death of someone. I'd like to celebrate and remember and take in on a very deep level what they gave, what they contributed, how they were, not that what I'm going to miss because they're no longer there to give it to me. That's just the way I view life and death.
What about what about ghosts? If they come back to try to haunt you, is that
Well, Tim, I've haunted a few ghosts. I've haunted the ghosts.
you haunt the ghost? Oh, so,
Ow!
I guess I don't think about that. Ghosts get scared too, I guess.
Ooh,
Well, all right.
ooh.
Well, so we've all heard of haunted houses. I never consider this a haunted skyscraper. So, are you familiar with 432 Park Avenue? Are you familiar
Are
with the?
you familiar with haunted people? No, I'm not. Please tell me about Park Avenue.
Well, yeah, and there was a big article in the Times about this, and so these horrific residential high rises that all went up in the last 5, 6 years in Manhattan that are basically taking over the skyline. And
Grotesque.
a lot of people
Grotesque.
refer them as just like the billionaire's middle finger to society, basically. I mean, these things are huge. And 432 Park Avenue was at one point was the biggest residential building in the world at 1,400 feet. And so why these things are now being erected in the world is because the new engineering techniques, blah, blah, blah. Well, and it turns out a lot of it's backfiring. This was for the people that don't know, these little pencil cigarette buildings that dominate the Manhattan skyline. They're basically places, these extremely expensive luxury apartments that the international billionaire gangsters, they dump their money there, like form of money laundering.
They buy them up and they don't even live there. They might visit, they might
Oh,
not. I mean, a lot of these places are just abandoned holdouts.
to give you a sense, the 96th floor apartment penthouse of this building just sold for $88 million to Fazaz El Karim, some Saudi retail magnate guy. Anyhow, but these things are turning out to be utter disasters because they might be these engineering feats, but they, of course, you're dealing in New York City. So the construction, the materials, everything's been like kind of, they were kind of skimping a little bit. They're having plumbing problems like you wouldn't believe, like Niagara Falls, because they have these hydraulic, high pressure water lines that have to go to get the water up to those fucking things. And they're exploding. And
And
just
look,
like,
hello, and tough shit. They're not there anyway. I don't remember the gal's name, but she was I think, Eastern European artist who posed and had fake credentials to see some of the most expensive apartments in New York because they're so fucking ugly. And her project was photographing how ugly some of these places were as an art project. Because look, but it's because if you have $88 million to spend on an apartment, doesn't mean you got fucking taste. Just ask.
Well, so this
ask the Cheeto King.
There's more funny stories of this. So by the way, what most people don't realize, because most people don't live on the 96th floor of a building, in order for these things to stay structurally sound, they're very malleable. And when they're that skinny, there's a sway. It's like being a crow in a crow's nest of the mass of like a 17th century transatlantic boat, and they're creating these like giant like gaps between the siding and the steel, which create these wind tunnels. So they're hearing all night like woo, and it's like rocking back and forth. These billionaires like, oh my God. I mean, another fun fact is supposedly the trash chute, because I guess it has to go to the bottom. I don't know how they have engineered. I wouldn't think it would have to drop 90 floors. Supposedly they'll drop it and they'll walk away, and then basically a cannon volume bomb explosion just goes nuts in their whole part, like boom.
I think it might be fun to break into one of these places, at least just for a night. I don't know, maybe it'll balance our own disequilibrium. Not sure.
There was one heir, I think he was the heir to the Jose Cuervo fortune, was stuck in like the 80th floor of an elevator for 2 hours, and of course when the winds happen, all the cables are like, everyone's fucking freaking out. They're fucking disasters. And insurance, because of all this, has gone up, because the water damage has gone up 300% in 2 years, which is already through the fucking roof. There's this Michelin star private hotel there that you have to, part of your maintenance fees and stuff, you have to spend like $1,200 a year just to live there in this restaurant. Of course, it's gone up to $15,000 a year. It's just nonstop.
Tim, yes. You know I'm crafty, right?
Yes, of course.
I know a few secrets about how one breaks out of an elevator, but I'm more about the old school elevators, because most elevators, the doors are on a spring system. So if you paw them like a cat, you might release the spring and they'll open up. Now, if you're between floors, you're kind of fucked. If you're 86 floors up, what are you gonna do? But if you're wise enough to perhaps have a grappling hook with you, please. Anyway, just saying. I
was in an elevator in New York once where it actually failed and started dive bombing to the basement, and the safety cable hooked in, and then I kind of lightly glided to the basement. But that was scary for about half a second.
Such a Tim Dahl move.
It inspired a movie, which I'll never make because I'm not in the B horror movie business, called Hellevator, about a possessed elevator. And in the trailer, there's some demonic elevator man going down. And of course, the person screams out, "Hellevator!" And then it goes. I mean,
I'm not a big fan of horror films because they never scare me enough.
I know.
But I did like one called Parking Garage.
I don't think I know that.
1 and 2, just because it's so ridiculous. First of all, parking garages are horrible anyway, especially as somebody who doesn't drive. It's always horrifying how narrow they are. Just ugly, green, usually bad lighting. They smell bad. Parking garage, pretty good one.
They're used in movies all the time for suspense, or someone stalking you, or high speed chases. Well, I got a bunch of headlines. I don't know if you have a few. The first seems like successful face hand transplant just happened. Joe DeMaio from New Jersey, he was in a horrific car accident that exploded, and most of his body was burnt, and they found just this very small chance, a donor that matched his dominant hand, his skin tone, his age, everything. I mean, I hate to say, because I don't. This guy obviously suffered so much. I don't know if things look that much better with the transplants. It's still. I mean, I don't. Obviously, it's not just cosmetic. There's function, but
I have to ask you, Tim. Would you go Jason? That is the horror film. Would you trust a flesh transplant? Would you just get a full burqa? What do you think you'd do if you had to replace your beautiful face?
Good question. If your face is just completely burned off, Your face is gone. So you want someone else's face there instead? I don't know. I mean, of course,
I wish everybody had my face, but I'm just saying because, that's my own vanity.
it's someone else's hands and someone else's face. Yeah. A mask, a Halloween mask, and I don't mean to rain on this guy's parade, but a Halloween mask actually is more attractive than much.
Well, you could have all kinds of masks then. I mean, why just settle for one person's face who already had it? I'm not sure. It's a tricky situation that I hope none of us have to face. Literally.
Well, maybe you can give him a hand in getting back on his feet. All right, so
the sound of one hand clapping, I could do it. All right, now I rarely agree. As a matter of fact, I've never agreed with 16,000 Christians.
Whoa!
But I have to say, they've just signed a petition against that idiot from Missouri, Josh Hawley.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Against his book. Okay. And he is one of the brain dead. Actually, he was the first brain dead Republican to back Trump's stolen election bullshit. And so they've signed a petition. But, a lot of people are signing petitions. I don't know how if it's really helping. But I like this headline that was in Raw Story. It's like, hell bent on earning the distinction of Hell's Senator, the only senator to oppose all 6 of Biden's cabinet picks, the most irrational and I'll say irritating of the Trumpist, Josh Hawley. Get rid of this upstart.
Well, wasn't his book deal canceled anyways? Was he going independent? Is it what's going on?
Simon and Schuster canceled it, but it's going somewhere else. But it was on tyranny, and here he is backing tyranny. What the duplicity, the absolute duplicity of what is happening in America right now it's dumbfounding because it's so fucking dumb. Okay. Oh no, we don't want to kick the queen of QAnon, or now her new name is Osama bin Karen, as they're calling Marjorie Taylor Greene. We don't want to kick her off the Committee for Education and School because she's only claimed repeatedly that Parkland shootings and attacked the young boy who was there. She just claims everything because she's a Q queen. We don't want to kick her off. What are they think? Well, tomorrow there's gonna be a vote. Probably by the time this airs, there's gonna be a vote, and of course the Democrats get this clown out of here. Who cares if some small part of Georgia likes her? What the hell is going on? Timothy Seymour Dahl, tell me what's going on.
Well, I mean, so constitutionally, I mean, the Hick district she represents has the right to vote for her. But yeah, I think they have to make sure she's powerless and is on 0 committees, because why would you have her on there? She doesn't believe in anything that's factual. So then why would you be on a committee if you don't believe in anything that's factual? It just doesn't seem reasonable to me.
The moral bankruptcy of this country is astonishing. Well, okay. And just the incompetence. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, do you remember? I don't know if you remember, but we had, remember we met on one of our tours we were in Louisiana, a Taylor Greene. I was like, is this the same person? And her girlfriend drove to Dallas. We met them at a restaurant, her and her girlfriend at a restaurant. And like, who are you guys? They drove to Dallas 5 hours to see us that night.
Don't remember, but maybe we can hire them because prosecutors have lost track of Kyle Rittenhauser.
Whoa,
the 17-year-old maniac who decided to cross the state lines and go to Kenosha during a protest and murdered 2 people. Then they let him go, and he's 17 years old, seen in a bar throwing power signs. Well, he gave him a false address. Can't find him.
Of course. Fucking Ricky Schroeder got him bailed. I mean, that kid sucks. I mean, I've talked about it before. I mean, a vigilante to protect a car dealership. I mean, what the hell, you dork? I'm already angry thinking about this fucking guy.
Oh, how about this? How about the Q shaman?
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
He's lost 20 pounds in jail because he only eats organic food. Well, he could use a few fucking pounds. Lose the horns. You lose the fur. You've already lost your mind. I don't see what's at stake here.
All right. Well, I'm going to do a little comic relief, at least for me
I
here.
thought that was funny.
It was funny, but a Houston couple who was house shopping were out in the suburbs outside of Houston looking for a new house, and they said, what's the backyard look like? And they sure enough found a corpse in the drainage pipe. I guess they're not going to move there.
I'm glad that's your idea of a comic relief.
It is. Come on. Hey, honey, we got to buy a house. How about this one? There's a corpse.
You know, speaking about a corpse, it doesn't impress me, but there's about 353 corpses, and this has been going on for a couple of decades now. It's called the Smiley Face Killer, and it's all frat boys.
He's only killing frat boys.
Well, no, they
or
think excuse me, a series of killers because it's basically all over the country and they leave a smiley face. So frat boys leaving a party, okay, going home, and basically they're upscale frat boys. But over the years, because I was investigating this recently, as you know, I have my forensic fetish, about 353 have not found who's done it. Think there's a series of killers, all frat boys, all ending up in bodies of water, all ending up with some kind of drug that they did not take before they left the party in their system. Now that's
kind of funny to me too. I'm sorry to admit. I mean, I know it's.
Am I crying?
I mean, I just think when for physical humor, when frat boys are the victim, it's kind of. I mean, I remember seeing a Deicide death metal show when I was like 19 or 20. And there were I remember they had the strobe, you couldn't really see the audience and the strobe's going out. And then those few strobes, get little snapshots of what's happening in the pit. And I remember it was like perfect, like this frat boy, and during this 1 second of the light going up, it just launched vertically, and this anonymous fist goes up and basically exploded his nose, and it like blood everywhere, and then the light went out. It was just like that was the visual entertainment I got for that show.
It's just another one of those reasons I love hanging out with you.
All right, well, I don't know, should we talk about the Marilyn Manson thing?
Well, again, my quote.
Yes.
I see a bear in a cage. I don't walk into it. Now, I am not excusing his behavior.
Well, they had a BDSM relationship.
Well, and again, I have to cut in. Once again,
Please.
I never blame the victims. I blame their mothers for not teaching them how to protect themselves. Why is he bothering chicks that don't want it? And why, after the first assault, why don't they just fucking poke his eyes out, rip his fucking balls out, take his fucking wallet and get out the door? I am not defending him. But come on.
Well, I think a lot of times predators try to prey on.
Love bombing. Love bombing.
They like to prey on people who basically suffer from some mental illness, and maybe that's part of their attraction.
Or insecurity or whatever. I mean, it's nonsense. And they've come out, and there's going to be a lot of other gals coming out, no doubt. And the thing is, well, you set yourself up for that, Marilyn. And the thing is, it was no fucking secret. So again, it just goes to prove that, and I think it was Roseanne Arquette who said, there are more monsters than just Harvey Weinstein. Come on, there's a lot of fucking monsters out there. And that more people in the rock world haven't been busted is because for some reason, you kind of know what's going to happen. Yeah. There's going to be drinks, there's going to be drugs, there's going to be insanity, at least in the good old days. Some people like that kind of behavior, some don't. And the thing is, watch your frickin' ass, ladies. He's got nothing to stand on. All he can say is it's consensual. And from the sounds of it, no, it wasn't, especially when, a fashion, like somebody who arranges the fashion shoots comes in and within like a 20 minutes, he's holding a gun to her head. He doesn't even know her. What the hell are you doing?
Oh boy.
I would have preferred the opposite. Let's reverse that scenario. Thank you very much.
Oh boy. All right. Well, there is some silver lining with this COVID. Here's my animal story of the week with this coronavirus, and particularly because it's exploding so much in South Africa. Because of that, rhino poaching is down dramatically, down 33%, because everyone has to stay inside. I didn't realize that 80% of the world's wild rhinos are in South Africa. So, I
thought you had one in your backyard.
I don't, but I also didn't realize that on a rhino tusk or horn is it's one of the most valuable things on the black market. 1 kilo of it is worth $60,000. I guess it's sold in the black market in China, as far as I've read.
Well, it probably is some kind of medication for impotence. Hey, they make Viagra, $2 a pop.
I don't know. Some of these business guys in the Far East, they think rhino dust gives them boners. And
how about a kilo of Viagra for all my friends?
Oh boy. Who would want a kilo of Viagra?
Hey, you know what? Next time you come over to my house, watch what you put in your mouth, honey.
You know, women like Viagra too. I mean,
I've done it. It gave me a mini stiffy.
Oh boy!
All right, let's wrap this.
Yes.
I like this headline in Raw Story today too. It was the icing on the clown cake, which is just such a great title. They were talking about, the Senate, Kevin, the idiot. I don't even want to say his name, McCarthy, and just how freaking dumb he is. And again, him, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz is already changing his story, the flip-flop fucking king.
The fact that he can switch so quickly just shows how little respect he has for the average person. But he still wins in Texas for whatever fucking reason.
How about just nobody making $1 million or more should be deciding what the rest of us have to suffer from. Okay. You could call it nothing. We're not even going there. Let's talk about what's coming up on this fabulous episode 82. Joseph Keckler. He's a fantastic, beautiful weirdo. And I say that with the highest regard. Singer, creator, his work. I mean, he does music, essays, films, absurd operatic areas, hidden drama, daily life. He has been presented at Lincoln Center, Centre Pompidou, Adult Swim, Opera Philadelphia, many other places. He had this performance called Let Me Die, which was an amalgamation of many operatic death scenes, and toured the United States, opening for Slater Kinney. I don't know why, but he did. And he has a book out called Dragon at the Edge of a Flat World. He is, this year, I don't even know what this means, artist in residence at the Ringling Museum of Art. And he continues to work on music videos and TV specials. So we're very happy to have Joseph Keckler with us.
This is a song by one of my great heroes who was a kind of priest of the ridiculous. And I sang this for the 7th grade talent show after hearing it for the first time. And it made me, saved me from being unpopular for about almost 2 weeks. This is a Screamin' Jay Hawkins song. I put a spell on you. 'Cause you're mine. Better stop the things you do. I'm not lying. I can't stand it, babe, the way you're always running around. I can't stand no more. Put me down. Put a spell on you because you're I love you, I love you, I love you anyhow. I don't care if you don't want me. I'm yours right now. I put a spell on you. Because you're mine. Joseph Keckler, come here, Joseph.
Are you a baritone or a bass? You have this.
I'm a bass baritone.
Okay. Definitely, you speak like a trained singer speaks. That kind of like not riding your chords. It's this kind of in that resonant sweet spot.
I began as a falsetto, but I'm gradually becoming a baritone.
Well, I was a castrati until my groundbreaking family figured out a solution. Never mind.
Okay, are we cozy? Shall
Oh,
we have
yeah. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to introduce and we're going to begin. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and our very special guest, Joseph Keckler. Joseph, we just met, but somehow you seem very familiar to me. I don't know why. This is kind of a mysterious... Now, maybe I'm one of those people. I really like this skit you do about inviting people on the internet over and nobody comes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe they'll still come.
Yeah.
I might come over.
You might come? Okay.
Is that okay?
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't bring anybody else because except for, me, myself, and I, that's already I would say an orgy, but I don't want to be permissive. It's a party. Hi, Joseph.
I think that sounds good.
I don't know why I'm flirting with you already. Something about you, I have no idea.
What neighborhood are you in?
I live under the J train. I consider that my neighborhood. It's where Bushwick, Bed-Stuy, and Williamsburg meet.
How did you get involved or interested as a young Joseph in opera?
I was first just interested in voices. So I was really interested in the idea of becoming other people. And they could be people who were imagined, I had seen, cartoon characters or people who I knew. So I was fascinated with the idea of impersonation. And then I was also, from an early age, really obsessed with a lot of very theatrical blues singers. And I think somehow I wanted to be a blues singer. And I sang a lot of dirges and...
we already have so much in common. It's like I'm a, functioning multiple. I love to put on other voices. I'm known for my dirges, and I can be quite theatrical.
Yes,
this is it. I knew. So
yeah, you sing a version of Gloomy Sunday, don't you?
I do, and I would say, other than the original, one of the better ones, but that's just me. I was just a child, even younger than you. So you were interested in all these things, especially voices, but how did that then translate into actually, when did you first, I got to do this?
That's something that I've just been stalking, elaborately for years at this point. But when I was a teenager, I also used my voice really aggressively, and I would get hoarse after one song. And my aunt, who was an actress in community theater in the area, studied with this sort of family friend who was a voice teacher. And so I started taking voice lessons from her as a teenager. And so she introduced me to opera. And then I went to school to be a painter. and I trained as an opera singer at the same time.
Where was that? Where did you attend?
I went to the University of Michigan. I'm from Michigan. And
Ann Arbor?
In Ann Arbor.
Well, they have a great music department, and I don't know much about the visual arts department. I assume it's accredited one. I don't know, but...
Would you paint under different personalities? How many styles of paintings do you have? Because as somebody that loved these multiple voices and characters, did you resign yourself to one character painting, or did many of them come out to play with colors?
I think I was always interested in that idea of authorship, or being able to kind of articulate different points of view and then almost create an apparatus of authorship. But I don't think I was necessarily, I don't think I was an advanced enough painter to really be able to do that. But I had my wild expressionist side and my eerie self-portrait, green person self-portrait side. Those were the articulated.
So going back to the voice, so, your voice was getting hoarse, and obviously, the Western classical, the operatic style of singing and the way of training and using your body and your lungs and diaphragm and all that stuff, it's a different technique than, in general, I find, than just a popular singing style that's just more maybe throaty and stuff. When I was checking out your material, I only came across the stuff where you're kind of doing more in the operatic style. Mm-hmm. Do you still try to, you wanted to sing blues. I mean, do you still go and explore the kind of the sandpaper against the larynx style of,
Hey, that's my territory. It took a lot of years to get this in, or I like to call it the kitty litter voice.
I like a lot of singers who sound like that, but my voice always kind of had an operatic sound to it too. It almost was like the voice had this identity that was more like that. So I do try to sound different ways, but I'm pretty careful about, doing things that are abusive or that would...
Well, I was saying earlier...
Wait, excuse me. Wait, hang on. He's very cautious about doing things that are abusive. He didn't say appropriating things. He didn't say he's very cautious about being Coco Taylor.
Oh, I mean, that would be...
He might have been talking about something else. I'm just digging.
Well, I mean, just by the way you speak, I can tell you're at least aware of your voice. You have to not just train as a singer, you have to train as a talker if you want to do it in that kind of way, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, and when I say abusive, I just mean things that are whatever, banging my vocal cords together or
right.
Create, aside from the cultural issues you're invoking. But,
aside from the cultural issues.
Well, no.
I did love your bad trip on Shroom video where when you're freaking out, I have the same pair of scissors, by the way. See, we just have so many parallels. And you have a knife in one hand and a pair of scissors in the other, and you're just imagining cutting out your own vocal cords. Usually I'm imagining cutting out somebody else's vocal cords.
Whoa. So you go to University of Michigan, and I guess the trajectory is more performance, singing, what you're known to do. And you kind of say, you know what, the visual art, I'll keep it to myself and go more with this. That was your calling, or just kind of just took on its own life?
I think everything is, to some degree, for me, always an open question. But I think I was better at singing, even though I felt like an outsider in that world and still do. So I was I was trying to acquire the skills of a singer, but I was thinking about it from a different point of view. I wasn't exactly socialized as a singer. And then I came to New York, and
when was that? When did you come to New York?
New York in the aughts, and and I started singing at an opera house, and I started doing...
Okay, wait a second now. You just came to New York and started singing at an opera house?
Well...
I just decided to sing at Lincoln Center. I mean, come on, honey. How'd that happen?
They only paid me $10 a show at that opera house. It was the opera house on the Bowery, and
right.
So I thought, well, okay, maybe I was excited. I thought I could when they accepted me, I thought, yes, this is easy. I'm set. I'll make my living doing this. But they didn't tell me
$10 opera instead of 3-penny opera.
Yes. Yeah. Which is probably comparable, I guess,
at this
given
point,
given inflation.
So then you're in the hustle and bustle, and you're just kind of building it the way most of us have to in New York, right? Is that,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I started doing. I had already been doing kind of performance art. So I was doing, experimental theater, doing club gigs of my own work, singing in operas there, and in other people's work in downtown and in Brooklyn, and working full time at various, and then half time at various, for somebody who sold pirated opera recordings for a music publishing company, a blind gallerist, and many other.
Other than blues and opera, did any other type of music influence you, or did you turn to it, or were you into it?
Well, I think, as a teenager, I was very into, I was very into goth rock and,
Like who's goth? I mean,
well, that's I was into the Sex Gang Children. I was into, the Banshees and their various side projects. I was into, very into David Bowie, somewhat a goth, but
what period, Bowie?
I think the periods that spoke the most to me were the late 70s, or like early 80s, Scary Monster, late, Low, but a lot of the periods, but those were the ones that
Diamond Dogs and Aladdin Insane are two of my favorite Bowie albums.
I love Aladdin. I loved Aladdin Insane and Diamond Dogs. Yeah, the chant of the ever circling skeletal family is.
We Are the Dead. It's a song for now.
Yes. Yeah. And so yeah, just all that stuff. I think probably, I think I encountered like a spoken word album of yours when I was 15 in a record store.
When all boys should. That's
and
did it scare you?
No, only in positive ways. I don't know.
Thank you so much.
So Klaus know me? Oh, or Demanda de Glace, yeah.
I don't think I knew. I feel like I didn't know about Diamanda Galas maybe quite as early, but I like Diamanda Galas.
Well, she's in a field pretty much all of her own, but then so are you at this period in time. Maybe I'm just not familiar, but what I related to in your work is the bringing together of various formats or referring to various things and speaking in various languages. I thought that was very interesting and very contemporary. I also really liked when you're just on stage alone and then other things might be joining you.
Other people.
That was very interesting. Other people.
Yeah.
Frank Zappa? Some of the mixing of classical and popular music.
Maybe Nina Hagen in a way, and Screamin' Jay Hawkins.
Okay. Yeah.
Screamin' Jay was, I remember the first time I heard him, I was in my mother's station wagon, and I was about 12 or something, and I was just completely. It was one of a few kind of convergent experiences. So I think his combination of having this beautiful, I'm not saying that I have a divine voice, but he did. And then also was ridiculous.
And you cover I Put a Spell on You, and you beautifully. It's also interesting when you're just doing the piano and vocals, because it's a very different, it's just showing another side, which I like very. I love that song, Screamin' Jay Hawkins as well.
So your parents were exposing you to a lot of music, it sounds like.
My dad was really interested in a lot of different types of music. I was probably 5 and they were downstairs watching the Blues Brothers, and I ambled down and was drawn by Aretha Franklin. And so I think that was my an introduction to a whole pantheon of artists I was interested in. And my dad was, knew about classical music and blues and stuff. And then, so I was sort of an anachronistic child, listening to those things. And then as a teenager, I thought I'd adopt some more countercultural interests.
Did you feel pretty alienated because of your interest in opera as a teenager, or did you find other people? I mean, were you like in the school choir, or did you find other like-minded people, or is that when you found goth, then it's like, I can be as weird as I want to be, so leave me the fuck alone, you assholes, you norms?
In high school, I was in a town of 3,000 people, and I mostly. So I presented myself in a kind of very over-the-top fashion visually in high school, and I had a couple close friends and friends in the relative metropolis of Kalamazoo. So I didn't know any other goths. So that way once I met other goths, I wasn't sure that I should be a goth, but.
Did you ever think of yourself as, and one of those lonely nights, as the only goth in a 1,000-mile radius of just kind of a goth incel? I mean, somehow that's just really sexy to me all of a sudden. I don't know what to say.
Goth incel.
Okay, all right.
That's a lot of them.
Yeah, no, that's
was,
back in the day. That's before they were called incels. It's more like the trench coat mafia.
I wasn't celibate, though. I was voluntarily.
I didn't think so. So what's the opposite of an incel? An outsell?
Voluntarily celebrant.
You were celebrant, yes. So, did you really have a bad trip on mushrooms? I mean, we love the idea of mixing mushrooms, bad tripping, and opera.
I did. I mean,
have you gone back to them, or was that the end of it? Did that terrify you, or you're still going? Did you go back for more?
People are still mad at me because I took apparently all the shrooms for a person's entire birthday party.
Whoa,
Joseph, what were you?
Heroic dose.
What were you thinking? You didn't know? You just thought it was candy?
I don't know. I mean, I think the problem was I was already tripping at the point that I ate the rest of them.
Oh boy.
And so I really had, and all the other times I'd done shrooms, it had just made everything a little hazy,
Okay.
I didn't really realize, and I had no idea. I mean, I wasn't trying to be mean or selfish, but so I was tripping for a long time. I mean, like for a year, every time I had a job that involved like counting sheet music at this place, and every time I would count something, I would like be flooded with memories from all different points of my life.
Psilocybin flashbacks. Okay.
And for a year, like every time my radiator came on, I would get flashbacks. It was, so it was quite a thing.
And have you kind of revisited them since to kind of come to peace and say, hey, you guys over there, we can make this work?
I'm waiting for the right circumstances that seem in which I could have a corrective experience. So I'm
volunteering to babysit.
I think, with that kind of stuff, if you go it back gently, you can find peace again. You kind of don't want that to be your last memory of this kind of
and maybe it shouldn't be with mushrooms. Maybe it should be with some other intoxicant. We'll discuss that later.
My problem is too that even if I'm running like a fever, I kind of hallucinate. I just feel like it's not that hard for me to go there.
Well, what's beautiful is because at a young age, you encouraged all these other voices and you accepted this theatricality. And my problem with most people is they're so confined into one method of being. They're like so programmed, or they're so confined is the only word I can think of, that they don't allow other parts of themselves out of either fear or insecurity to come out. So maybe these freestyling, freewheeling hallucinations are just because you're more liberated than most people.
Yes, that must be it.
That's what it is.
Or you're completely insane, as I've been occasionally called. I'm the most sane person I know.
But I agree with you about confinement. I think that's always been really frustrating to me. And I think it also has to do with the fact that you risk being unintelligible if you have a multiplicity going on, you know?
Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've questioned if the other person understood what I was saying. And if they didn't, I could repeat it back verbatim. It didn't mean they would understand it any better. But that's what happens when you freestyle.
Well, sometimes you can communicate. There's so much subtext to the non-text that you can still somehow communicate.
And nonsense.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
Not against that.
Yeah. So you're in New York, you're building, you're doing performance. You're just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to do me and see how this comes together. And seems like that's happened. So where is this all going?
Let's go back to it really starting to take off, because it somehow started to really take off. Although it seems always like a slow crawl through everything, but
well, and you know, in my case, I mean, I've had a lot going on recently. Of course, this year has been, you know what this year's been, but
what year? What this endless period of vacant time that's almost incomprehensible. I've enjoyed it, though, I must say. Go ahead.
I've enjoyed it too. I mean, in a way, I feel like I've been in a kind of afterlife where I'm like looking at a service road, that's parallel to my
no exit.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been kind of my favorite time. So even last year, 2019, I was doing something with Opera Philadelphia. I premiered a different show in New York. I opened for Slater-Kinney across the country. But a lot of times, like the different things I'm doing, and I'm developing the TV special and these things.
Oh, and hang on right there. Tell us about that. Like, how did that even come about? That's fantastic.
Well, and who knows? It's been in a state of limbo for forever, and who knows if I can,
animated or live or
a
situational?
live action, opera.
Like reality TV done in an opera.
Yeah.
A reality opera.
That's what I want. Yeah.
I can see it.
What I mean with reality is just my reality. So,
well, doesn't that exclude a lot of other things anyway? It's like, just because you don't want to exclude them, aren't they already kind of excluded?
Yeah, but they're not invited in and then kicked out.
Exactly.
They're just not invited in the first place.
I understand.
So when you're doing invites to your apartment, would you not kick someone out if they turned out to be just, dangerous?
There's a vetting process.
Okay. So the front wall, the front line walls are strong enough. The filter, you trust the filters in the front, front of the line.
I never
send me the form to fill out. Not a problem.
The scissors and the knife are always close at hand. Also
nice. So all right, so Philadelphia. All right, let's keep on going through all this.
So my only point was that because that I have kind of slowly advanced in different worlds that have no idea what is going on in the other one. So they so I'm sort of like straddling different economies and contexts, and they often, I think they have no idea like what.
That's a thing though.
And
I mean,
they have no idea truly the extent of what you are. That's another thing, is they may bring you in for something they think they're relating to and can relate to, but then they just have no idea of what the rest of the picture is, which is a pretty great thing.
It feels, I like being a shifty character, but it is interesting because I'm never quite a known quantity, or I don't know like how I'm being refracted. So things have been working out, but it's kind of a schizophrenic hustle, or if that's a.
I completely understand. It's most of my so-called career. Yeah.
People ask me, I'm a bass player, so I get to play with a lot of different types of music, and people always ask me, "What's your favorite?" I go, "These are different satisfactions," and so it's people sometimes struggle with. How do I bring it all together? It just comes all together, and basically they're just different satisfactions. I mean, if you're satisfied, then who cares?
Well, and also, Joseph, only a select amount of people could really understand or withstand possibly the sum total. So sometimes you just have to parcel it out. I'm sure you know what I mean.
So do you follow, you're into opera, but do you follow new operas, the whole opera world? Are you following this around the world? Are you checking out the latest stuff, what the big opera houses around the world are putting on? Are you do you go to the Met by living here? Where are you going to the Met to check out these massive productions?
I wouldn't ever say that I have, my absolute finger on the pulse, or that I'm a high level, that I have like extreme connoisseurship or something, but I like to understand what's going on and be engaged in that. So yeah, I like to go to the Met and understand what's going on in that world. But
no, I'm talking about Metropolitan Opera.
Well, I mean, I like to understand what's going on in visual art, in comedy, I like to understand in music, that not classical music. So it's not that I'm
always interested to know, though, what you got your finger on.
Well, I don't know what I had my finger on, but I've just noticed lately, I kind of, on a fluke, started getting invited to be on comedy bills a number of years ago after being a musical guest on one. And at that point, I just went with it. And it worked for a while, but I hadn't had a particular, concerted interest in comedy. And then I've noticed that things have really shifted in that world in the past few years. I think a lot of people who are more performance art type people are going into comedy now. Like there's a person named Lorelei Ramirez who does really kind of, and in LA, I love to do this night called Weirdo Night with Dynasty Handbag. And
I know. Yeah, I know.
And Dynasty's a performance art, but she's also kind of a weird abstract comic, and so she brings in all these, it's like that scene is sort of interesting to me.
Well, also, the history of opera as well as comedy. I mean, you can get away with a lot. It's always darker than it seems. Opera has always been about murder, desperation, injustice, poverty, whoredom, etc. And comedy also tends, at the best, to touch on the darkest subjects and try to shine a different light on it.
Yeah, and it's really an arena where taboos are tested, and I think ideals can either be reinforced or be questioned. And I think a lot of times in comedy they're reinforced, but sometimes they're questioned.
So what was the last performance you saw, live performance you saw, well, before obviously COVID, that really just grabbed you and you were like, that's something maybe I haven't seen, or something that just really hit you at a gut level?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember what.
You can come back to that answer. You don't have to answer it right now.
I mean, it's hard to remember 9, 10, 11, 12 months ago.
Well,
yeah. I had been just coming off of of touring, and then I got back to New York just in time for the pandemic to hit. So I think I went out twice before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, we were lucky that way too. We did one of the last live rock shows in New York on March 13th as Retrovirus. We were pretty lucky.
Yeah. And then the 15th, it was done. Are you aware of the serialist composer Charles Warren's version, opera of Brokeback Mountain?
No.
Check that out online. It was supposed to be at the Met, but then they lost funding and it ended up somewhere, I think in Madrid.
I think I did hear of it, but I have not. So
yeah, I mean, because when you think about the material, and then you have this serialist modernist set of pitches, it's definitely a collision of worlds I would never have expected. But piqued my attention.
I was involved in a rather strange project about 2 years ago with the Berlin Opera House, which I had an album called My Lover the Killer, based on a true story. I'm not going to review all the details of that. I'll tell you more about it later. But they were doing a thing called Ambush, where they would invite weirdos to, in the smaller theater, put on a performance incorporating some of the elements of the opera that was playing in the bigger theater. So they called and asked if I would be interested in using some of Carmen. And Carmen was about, you know, murder, death, and love. And My Lover the Killer was a true story about the same thing. And that was kind of interesting to mix that in small doses. Sweezel Walter and Mark Hurtado were part of that. I'm going to discuss that more with you later because it's a very strange concept. But Carmen doesn't live, but I'm the only one that lived in My Lover the Killer. True story, just saying.
Yeah, I would love to. Can I see that somehow?
There might be some clips around, but I thought that was a very good idea, just to mix, taking elements of opera, and I'll tell you more about that later, and then putting it into something much harsher. Mm-hmm. You know, the woman that was singing the parts, she could not understand where I was coming from until I said, look, the themes are the same. This is about love, murder, revenge, death. Mm-hmm. Oh, I get it. That's opera in a nutshell. Right. The good parts. Do you have any albums out, or do you do these videos? Is your stuff just strictly live, or have you made any albums yet? Do you want to make an album?
I do want to make an album. I mean, I've been working for a while on a group of kind of weird, torchy songs that aren't that operatic, and I was gonna try to put it out this year, and then things just went crazy. I think with the operatic stuff that I have done, I might want to do some other project, but with the stuff with opera, but my arias that I create that are about, like, you know, the Shroom Trip or Strangers from the Internet, or, you know, I'm just writing one about having sex with a ghost, or, you know, stealing money from a museum, and, you know, these little transgressions. That hinges on text so much. It's so much about timing and the translation that it's really hard for me to do just an audio album. So I'm thinking about like a video album of that.
Yeah, I always think that's a really good idea. A video album, I think, is great, because then, I mean, it just more formed. People could really see where you're going with it, as opposed to, why let them use their own imaginations, which by now are probably stunted by quarantine.
Exactly. And I think that I haven't released more music too, because, I mean, I've even pulled some things that I have released, because I think I have an aversion to permanence and to objects. I think it's why I stopped painting. I think I am always frustrated. I wrote a book, when I look at it, when I open it, I think, oh, I'd like to change that sentence. It's hard for me to live with objects that I produce. That's why performing, it's a fluid experience. It disappears. And so that's, I think, my thing.
Simon wants to know, do you really steal money from museums?
I did once steal some, not that much. It was just petty cash. Well, one time I was working for $8 an hour hawking audio guides at a museum, and our boss was, you know, hungover and didn't come in. And I, meanwhile, had, you know, no money to pay my rent with the $8 an hour, and subsisting on eggs. And we had the busiest day ever, and we couldn't unlock the cash register. So we had to help the patrons access their audio guides, and we had to take a little off the top.
Pocket the money.
Have you done voiceover work?
I've never done.
I mean, when I hear you, going back to your speaking voice, it seems like you're very aware of your diction and all that stuff. So I'm just like, voiceover work. It seems like.
Have you ever done telephone sex work?
That's voice underwork.
I've never gotten paid for it.
Okay,
Nice.
well, we'll look into that because we're all gonna need a new job soon.
You're gonna be pimping. You're gonna be his pimp.
Hey!
You know, I did at one point. People would always say you should do voiceover work, and I think I went to a couple auditions at some point, and they would always tell me, "Can you sound?" They would always say, "Could you sound a little more excited?" And so I don't know. You have a really good radio voice, Tim.
I do.
Well, and a radio face.
Oh God! Thank you. God,
he's cute. Come on.
So listen. I mean, in terms of that, my diction's so bad. I slur words. I sound drunk when I'm not drunk. So I don't think that's really well. I guess some. Well, Tom Brokaw on TV. He always seemed drunk when he spoke.
Yeah, Charlie Rose.
Oh yeah, Charlie Rose.
Have you guys seen the Orson Welles commercial outtakes where he's drunk?
No, I'll check that out.
You don't get that fat by not drinking and eating a lot. That's for sure.
So you're not into psychedelics anymore. Are you into alcohol?
I have been straight edge during this pandemic.
Wow, very disciplined.
I don't know why. I mean, I bought a bottle of bourbon the first day of lockdown, and then I just didn't.
I think you need a hot toddy at my house.
Okay.
to celebrate that even though the pandemic or the quarantine might not be breaking, we are no longer going to be completely imprisoned. But you and I both felt kind of liberated in this. I'm just saying a celebration might be in order soon. Why not?
I think so. Yeah.
I love hot toddies.
So you went straight edge. I mean, because it's interesting. Sometimes when things drastically change or people feel helpless, like some people do during this period, they turn to drinking and all that stuff. And then some people are like, nope, I got to be really on top of things. I don't know what's around the corner. I mean, does that tend to be one of your characteristics that you kind of go more sober under strange circumstances?
I don't know. I think it's just, I mean, I'm also living alone for the first time.
Okay.
Or I've rarely lived alone, and
doesn't that feel good?
It feels amazing, you know.
You say you're alone. You had sex with a ghost, well, at least once.
At least once, but not.
I know.
I've just been, yeah. That was a while ago. Usually, I would have like a drink a day, or something, but and more on certain days, but. I think it's just being alone in an apartment for months on end in isolation. Okay. I think also I had just done so much last year. Like my body, I just needed a minute. And I think I feel more grounded, not drinking, being alone.
Do you cook for yourself?
I've usually, no.
Just because if you're saying you needed to dry out from alcohol, I mean, nutrition is one of the few things we can actually control. Although even that, we don't control where the food comes from. But
right.
So what does a ghost orgasm sound like?
Oops.
Woo.
Well,
no, you don't have to.
It depends. It could be a poltergasm or.
Whoa! All right.
You know.
Yes, we're learning new things. So. All right, so Michigan, New York. So you seem very, very liberated in these environments. Did you not feel liberated in your town of 3,000 outside of Kalamazoo?
No, I don't think I did. I mean,
Fair.
I think well, you know, in a certain way, I think in a place like that, you have to kind of force the issue of liberation.
Sure.
And I feel that, and then sometimes I haven't been back there in so long, I'll think this is probably just my own drama. I'm probably making a narrative where it's all probably fine. It's not repressed there. I'm sure it's, and then I go back there and you feel the weight, the weight of it. So yeah, I did not feel.
Kalamazoo is a little further north than just Michiana. It's not right. So do you still consider that there's that kind of haze zone between Indiana and Michigan where it's just so, I don't know, Christian and pious and.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in an area that my immediate family is not fundamentalist Christian, but my best friend growing up her dad was a preacher, and
okay,
it was kind of that Betsy DeVos, greater area, like the whole that West Michigan Calvinist and fundamentalist Christian mega churches and so that's definitely going on.
Look, there's so many parts of America that have so many different kinds of perversions, whether it's mega churches, mega billies, rednecks, truckers. I mean, there's just so much of America is so perverted, and they think we're the weirdos. No. Yes, we are. In the right way, though.
For all performers, a lot of our stuff is just constantly getting shoveled later. We don't really know where it's all going to fall, but do you have anything like performance-wise that you're kind of, now that there's vaccines, you're like, maybe in the fall? Are you setting things up for performing and touring and all that stuff at this point?
Well, I have things that are supposed to tour that are just in limbo. Right. I have a kind of production that's has dates, but it has engagements, but the dates are just up in the air.
But that's why the video album would be a good thing.
And that's what I'm trying to shift to, is there are all these things that I've never had time to do, like produce certain videos, produce recordings, and so I'm trying to make that happen, and also trying to advance the TV things, although a lot of work and energy has been tied up in that for so long. And then you think, I'm putting all my creative energy into this thing that's at the mercy of people in corporate television, ultimately.
Sometimes I think when you have a big project like a book, or you're writing something for TV, or you're writing something that you might not know when the end of it is, or it's indefinite, but you have to do it, is if you just, in a discipline, design X amount of time every day, but not all day, all night, because when it's something is immense and it's an overhang on you, it is a constant piranha. But if you say, I'm going to work on that from 9 a.m. till noon, and that's it, if it's one sentence or 100 pages, I think that can be a disciplined liberation, a liberated discipline.
I agree with you, but I didn't really understand that until this pandemic, where I started doing things and I decided I'm going to work on that thing an hour a day. And that could be sitting on a bench and thinking about it for an hour. And then slowly it emerges, and it's outside of, the kind of trying to force yourself to do it by way of emergency or by way of self-flagellation or something. Yeah.
Well, and it's so mysterious, because so much of artists need musicians, writers, inspiration that, as you said, can come from sitting on a park bench. Sometimes it can come from reading 100 pages a day that somebody else wrote, watching dozens of movies, or staring into space quietly and seemingly doing nothing, which most people have a really hard time doing.
Gertrude Stein said that, that doing nothing is vastly important. I don't know the exact quote, but there's a great importance in doing nothing. Absolutely nothing.
As opposed to so many people who just cannot stand to be in their own head or in a room by themselves without being overstimulated by just a bunch of junk, as opposed to being re-energized or thinking. They have to be they're compounding their own ignorance by the bullshit of what's out there. Look, not everything that one takes in is bullshit, but I'm just talking about, those other people. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and our special guest, my new friend, Joseph Keckler. We have a lot in common, my friend. I will be back at you very soon.
Okay. I love this. Yeah, it was so good to talk to you, and I look forward to all.
Okay. We will be in touch. Okay.
All right.
It was a pleasure, Joseph. Thank you.
A pleasure, Simon.
Stay weird.
apocalypse. It was big in 2008. 12/21/12. I had friends who were into it, but they'd all long since forgotten by the actual date. 2008 was when various shysters started selling their books about the end of the world by invoking some inscrutable Mayan prophecy, cobbled together with bits of scientific jargon about the magnetic pole switching, along with some very distressing and probably accurate statistics about the environmental catastrophe we would all soon face. I had friends who went around Brooklyn muttering forebodingly about the day the world was to go asunder, 12/21/12. These same people spent the next 4 years squeezing in every hedonistic life experience they could possibly imagine and never mentioned the apocalypse again. As that date approached, some of them were even Christmas shopping. And I didn't have the sense that they were relieved the world wasn't ending. I had the sense that they were resigned to this fact. You can bring the track up, it's fine. Although we were afraid of dying, I know we all so longed for it. Now we all can blame the Mayans for the apocalypse we wanted but did not get. The apocalypse we wanted but did not get. The apocalypse we wanted